welcome back to our channel. My name is Mary Joy Chuba with Science Garcia Law Firm. And again, this is my esteemed colleague, Debrina Ostin. We are continuing the infamous EB-1A visa category. And to kick things off, we are picking up with the scholarly article criteria. I'm sure you want to know what that is. What does that really mean? So, Debrina, can you just take it away?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad I'm here today. So scholarly articles and publications. And that's exactly what the EB-1 criteria requires, that you published. And either this is a scholarly articles or your articles are published in major publication. Scholarly articles, think publishing in reputable journals. Publications are published in major publication.
Okay, so I'm glad you clarified that, because my thought process was, maybe we have some viewers out there who are thinking, well, I wrote like some application or just a little blog at my kid's school. Does that qualify?
No, that doesn't qualify. So I get a lot of clients saying, I wrote a blog and it's on my company's website, and it's the most prestigious thing in my company. I'm the only one blogging on the company's website. Even with that, this will not be considered publication for EB-1 purposes, because your company's site is not a journal and it's not a major publication. So that one thing that doesn't qualify. The other thing, the most common question is, I published in Medium, or I published my articles on LinkedIn. Would that qualify? It's not gonna qualify. Medium is an open platform. Anybody can create an account and publish anything they want. LinkedIn is the same thing. You have your LinkedIn profile, and then you can just generate as much content as you want on LinkedIn. And the reason these don't qualify is because they don't have editorial process. So in order to qualify for your article as a scholarly article or article in major publication, there needs to be an editorial process. And you need to show USCIS, one, they have an editorial process, and then what the editorial process looks like.
Okay, so basically this is the type of evidence that we need the clients to gather. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, I hope you're listening to this. You don't just tell USCIS that you're publishing on your company's law firm, because we're a law firm, on your company's website, and you're the only solo blogger. That doesn't qualify, right? So let's say we have a client who's actually publishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And has evidence to show this. Like, what type of challenges would they observe or come across with USCIS?
Yeah, so a couple things that comes to mind. One is, obviously you have to show the reputation of that journal. So if the journal has high impact factor, we want to show that or make a point out of it. Recently, I have stumbled into a lot of journals that are not necessarily reputable, meaning they don't have editorial process, or you don't even know what that journal is all about. This is the number one thing USCIS looks at. The other thing that, just recently actually I've seen it for the first time, is USCIS pushed back on the publication criteria, the whole criteria, claiming that some of the articles were generated or written with ChatGPT. So this is, here you go, how the USCIS is going to use the ChatGPT against us. How they found out, obviously we all know how, but basically they said, well, this is not scholarly. If you're generating articles and you claim that they're scholarly, but then ChatGPT generated them, they pushed back on just the whole criteria. And I don't think it was necessarily, yes, the article may have been generated with ChatGPT or just the outline or whatever, but I think that the bigger issue was that was published in some kind of a journal that didn't have editorial process. So what it looked like was basically copy pasting from what ChatGPT wrote into that journal without the journal themselves actually editing editing the article. And I think that's the bigger issue there. But just make sure you're not generating everything using ChatGPT, because that's not scholarly. I mean, it's nice, but it's not scholarly.
Right. And also, too, it's plagiarism.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Sort of. Okay, so basically there's the issue of also looking at citations, right?
Right.
Can you explain like whether this is necessary, and if it is, like, is it something that's mandatory with the EB1A?
Yeah, that's a very common question. So there's no requirement for citations. If you read the regulations, that's what we do as an attorneys, every day. We read regulations. There's no mention of citations. Now, can we present them? Can we use them? Yes, of course. I mean, if you have citations, we do make a point out of it that, your articles have been cited, 10, 15, 300, 1,000 times. But the issue, if you want to really make a point out of it, basically claim that this is not only, this is like a, original contribution, or that, your multiple people are citing to your article. So just claiming I have 1,000 citations is not enough for USCIS, because they have said that, when you're publishing, when you're writing articles, everybody's citing. That's part of what people do, part of what scholars do. They cite to each other, and there's nothing really extraordinary about that. So yeah, I'm writing an article, I'm doing a research, I'm gonna cite to X, Y, and Z. But that doesn't necessarily mean that anything extraordinary happens. Well, at least according to USCIS. So how can you leverage these citations in order to actually make sense for USCIS? So I've asked clients, let's say you have 50 citations, reach out to the people who cited your work. Obviously, not everybody will respond. You need only one or two. And then they actually write a letter explaining what they cited to, why they cited to, and how it helped their work or accelerated their work or impacted their work. And then we get that letter, and then we do make a point out of that citation. But just claiming I have 1,000 citations, that's not going to be enough for USCIS purposes.
Yeah. So even if it's not necessarily required in terms of number, if you do want to use that as like a final merit or to elevate your work.
Yeah, to elevate or make it the original contribution, then you have to sort of peel the onion, as we say. Not only claim I have all of these citations, but you actually have to provide evidence, who cited, why they cited, and what was the impact of your citation to that other's work. So that's the only way to sort of present to make the argument that, this is of extraordinary ability, and not just the regular researcher who, writes a paper and then, yes, I need to cite to, whatever work I'm using.
That's interesting. So it's more layer and layer of work, basically.
Yeah.
So don't chat GPT because basically USCIS wants to see that there's editorial, right? Proofing before it's actually published. So keep that in mind. So this is really helpful. So can you give us an idea of, let's say we have someone watching and they're planning on just kind of, highlighting their publications for this criteria, for this visa type rather, what would you recommend?
So when it comes to publications, yes, you do wanna collect all of your publications, what you have written. And one thing I always recommend, or tell clients is just give everything to your attorney and let them actually, choose what is appropriate for EB1. Because I've had clients who just bring a box of things, literally. And then there are tons of things, publications and whatnot. And guess what? They probably had 100 to 200 published works that, they did, but maybe only 15 qualified for EB1. And then I've seen the opposite as well. So a client will say, oh yeah, I published 3 things. And I'm like, but you've been in the field for so long, and you're kind of public. That's what you do. You can't be just publishing 3 things. And then it turned out that, yeah, they do actually have quality publications, way more than the first 3 or 5 that they showed me. So the first thing is, just give everything that you have to your attorney and let them determine what will qualify for EB1. Obviously, we look for quality. So if you have 20, but only 5 are quality articles, I would go with 5. I wouldn't include anything else. Maybe the final merits or other places, but I wouldn't include that and claim that, this is a publication for EB1 purposes, because it just isn't. Especially if it's, it's not in major media and the journal is questionable.
Right, okay. So basically this ties into the next question. You did mention, okay, so maybe if you had 5 or you had 10 or you think you only had 3, but you ended up having 5. These are numbers, right? So speaking of numbers, is there a sweet number that we need? Number of publications that we need. So let's say we have someone watching and they only have like 2 or a handful of publications. Would this criteria be something that they need to even address?
Yeah, so if somebody comes in and they say, I have 2 publications, obviously I'll review the publications. And if they're quality publications, yes, I mean, you will meet the criteria. Obviously, it's not gonna be, so you better have, other evidence for the other criteria. So this is not gonna be your, strong criteria, so to speak. But yeah, you will meet the criteria with 2 publications. But again, then you want to make sure that maybe you have 100, judging experiences, right? So you have to beef up someplace else. But yes, with 2 publications, I would definitely, include that, especially if you are, in the private sector. So if you're not a scholar and you're a practitioner, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to have 300 publications. It just makes no sense. That's not your profile. Now, if you're a scholar and you come in and say, I have 2 publications, well, yeah, then we have a problem. So we look at the field, we look at your profile, we look at what you do, are you publishing, are you a scholar, are you a research associate, are you a postdoc, or are you an engineer, are you a technical staff, right? So if you're an engineer, the technical staff, the principal engineer, most likely you won't have a lot of publications, and that is totally okay, because that doesn't fit, 200 publications don't really fit in what you do.
Of course. But if you're in the university research capacity, then it should have more.
You should have more publications, but there's no minimum and there's no maximum. Obviously, I always say the more you have, the better, the stronger the criteria, but it has to be quality and it has to make sense.
Right. So this is great. This is really good. It's one of the interesting ones, I think, when we look at these cases and we read through the publications. It's like we're learning a new field, right?
Right. Yeah.
But this is just really our quick, 5 minutes or 13-minute video of what the publishing of scholarly articles looks like, what USCIS looks into, and what does qualify as actual published. It has to be heavily vetted. There has to be an editorial process, which is really the key to this. But stay tuned, because we do have some more criteria that we will be covering in our next videos. As usual, thank you for tuning in with us. And if you need any assistance with this category or this visa type, feel free to reach us at ScienceGarciaLawFirm.com, and we'll be more than happy to assist you in your immigration process. Have a good day.
Thank you.